Hey everyone, Ben here. Welcome back to the Stellar Work podcast. Every second week we explore the people, patterns and ideas that shape the way organizations learn, adapt and succeed. In this episode, I'm joined by Philipp Raasch, the mind behind the Autopreneur and the German, Der Autopreneur. One of the most influential newsletters and podcasters covering the massive transformations happening in the automotive industry. If you're on LinkedIn, you've probably already seen his sharp insights because Philipp is everywhere when it comes to the future of mobility. We dive deep into the 4 overlapping shifts reshaping the automotive world, from combustion engine to electric vehicles, from hardware to software-defined cars, from assisted driving to autonomy. And finally, the cultural transformation legacy automakers must go through to keep up. If you want to understand how transformation ripples through organizations, business models, and even national economies, this is an episode you won't want to miss. So let's jump right in. Here's my conversation with Philipp Raasch. Hello, Philipp. Welcome to the Stellar Work podcast.
Hi, Ben. I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah, of course. Like, you're the number one automotive newsletter podcaster that I found on LinkedIn. Like, when I open up LinkedIn, there's always a post, always a video, always a text that you published, a snippet that you put out. So we had a couple of car topics on the show. So it just felt naturally to reach out. And I'm really glad for having you here.
Yeah, and I'm excited to talk to you and excited what kind of questions you will ask me.
All right. But before we dig into that, why don't we start with you introducing yourself to our audience a bit?
Yes, of course. So I'm Philipp, as you said, and as you also mentioned in the beginning, I am writing a weekly newsletter, and I'm doing a podcast, combined with the newsletter, about the multiple transformations that are happening at the same time in the automotive industry. The newsletter and the podcast is in German language, but there's also an English version, which is called The German Autopreneur, and the German version is just called Der Autopreneur, like the Autopreneur in German. And that's basically what I do. I analyze the market, travel around the world, speak to people, and write stories about these multiple transformations.
And you do that really, really well. So I'm really enjoying your content.
Thanks a lot.
But did you like, how did all of that happen? Did you just one morning roll out of bed and thought like, okay, I'm going to be this guy, the Autopreneur? How did you end up in that spot?
The first glimpse or the first idea was just starting a newsletter, just out of curiosity. I was looking for an additional project, and then it was during the Christmas break where things usually slow down for everyone, and I had a lot of extra time for an additional project, and I was diving into this newsletter rabbit hole, and I remember reading 3 to 5 days. I was just reading everything I could get about how to write a newsletter. What is it about to write a newsletter? What makes a good newsletter? And then in January, I just launched the first episode, and over the next few weeks or months, I recognized that people seem to be interested in what I'm writing. And then in the middle of 2024, I decided to go all in and said, let's make a business model out of this. Let's build a business. And right now I'm building kind of a media business. And after that, I added the podcast as an additional medium for the same content. I increased the amount of LinkedIn posts which I post on a regular basis, and I also started an additional newsletter. So right now in German I publish 2 weekly newsletters, and in English 1 weekly newsletter and 1 podcast. That's my schedule right now.
How many people are subscribed to your newsletter, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, in German we are now between 32 and 33,000 subscribers for the newsletter.
Oh, there's just so much way to go for me.
But it's that's not the podcast. It's the newsletter.
Yeah.
Do you also write a newsletter?
Oh, I started on Substack. I started to write a newsletter, but I was just like summarizing all the stuff that I do. But then it's just not fun to me. I don't really enjoy it, and when I'm not enjoying it, I don't keep track of it. And if I don't can sort of play this long-term game, then I'm better not starting it anyway.
That's a good approach.
Yeah. so I did that. But I'm thinking of something very similar where I launch an episode every second week, and every other week I thought of launching a really condensed, like 10-minute, what happens in the world of work, what happens in the different industries, and what are the trends. Just a condensed 10-minute episode, like just call it Stellar Work Markets, or I don't know.
If you ask me for a recommendation, I would say like your main medium is your podcast, right? You're doing these interviews with certain people around different industries. And I would say like, why don't you release a newsletter with the key learnings you had from your talks with interesting persons? That's what I am doing. Yeah. I'm doing like in my podcast, sometimes I also doing interviews. And when I do an interview podcast, I always like at the same time release a newsletter with my key learnings. Those are the 10 things I learned from person XYZ.
Maybe. All right. I reached out to you because I wanted to know like what are the latest, greatest trends in the automotive area regarding transformations. We could talk like about probably a million different things that are happening now at once, because the whole industry, at least from my point of view, is a big mess at the moment. There are just too many things happening parallel. But out of your research, out of the time that you spend and the energy you put in, what would you consider like the main things that are driving the automotive industry at the moment?
So I always describe it as like 3 simultaneous shifts we're experiencing in the industry right now. And it's like 3 technological shifts, like the shift from combustion engines, from ICEs to electric vehicles to EVs, the shift from hardware to software. We all know this buzzword like software-defined vehicle. Cars get more and more defined by the software and less by the hardware like it was in the past. And the third technological shift is the shift from self-driving to autonomous driving, which also gets more and more important also for customers when they make a purchase decision. And especially for us in Germany, because like we have a lot of legacy automotive industry in Germany, we experience kind of a fourth shift, which is like the shift from the traditional industry company to the software first company, like all those cultural and organizational changes that are really challenging for us, because we worked a certain way for maybe sometimes more than 100 years and build up like structures that are kind of bulletproof and optimized to build these super cool combustion cars. And now like everything is changing. There are new competitors, new players, and software is getting more important. And all those like recipes that helped us stay competitive in the past don't work anymore, and we have to adapt, have to change, and that's like a competitive disadvantage compared to newcomers that just start on the green field and like start from nothing and just like can say, okay, we build a software-defined vehicle. We start with the software. We don't have any legacy. We don't have like old processes, an old organization that might resist change, and that's a challenge we certainly experience or feel in Germany.
What do you think? How well are we doing this transformation in Germany, like compared to the transformations that are happening at automotive companies outside Germany? Are we well equipped here in the country?
I think it's not a question regarding countries. I think it's a question about old automotive and new automotive. What I just said, like we have like legacy automakers, the automakers that have been here for decades and been really successful. We have those automakers in the US, we have them in Japan, in Korea, and I would say all of these automakers are kind of struggling with this like shift to the new world, and some are doing better in certain fields and some struggle more in other fields. I wouldn't say like that it's especially hard for us, but it's just hard as for every legacy automaker to transform into this new setup.
Yeah. Is there an automaker that has made an especially well-made transformation towards software-defined vehicle?
I wouldn't say we are there yet. If you ask me, I wouldn't say we are there yet. So I think everyone is doing well in certain areas and less good in other areas. So I wouldn't mention one example that's especially good here.
Because I feel that each part of that industry is facing their own problems. So on one hand, you have those legacy automakers who are really slow in changing and transitioning to a new way of working, a new way of looking at the business model. And on the other hand, you have these new companies like Lucid or Rivian, just to name two. They're having issues on being profitable, reaching those numbers in order to get the next round of funding, in order to secure the budgets for the next vehicle to be released, for the next production line to be launched. So it seems like there is no really clear advantage on being on either end of the spectrum.
I think both sides have advantages and disadvantages. Like I said earlier, if you have like this greenfield approach and like everything is changing in the industry right now, you have an advantage because you can just like build up the structures from scratch for the new automotive world, like how automotive works now. And like the traditional players, they have to adapt, they have to change their processes, they have to change their way of doing things, their mindset, their culture, their way of thinking. And if you ever like worked in like stuff like change management, you know how hard it is like to change like this big organizations, big ships that have been optimized like in a certain way to work in a certain way and have to change. And on the other side, of course, like new players have the problem of getting capital, getting funding and investment, and have just different challenges in staying competitive and successful.
Have you seen moves? Have you seen like playbooks from companies where they're trying like different approaches on solving things?
I think what we can discover now, observe, that's the right word. What we can observe right now is like, for example, if we just look at the German automakers, like in the first like try of getting this transformation done, they had a strategy to make it themselves. Like, we want to make software our core competency. We don't want to like buy this from partners or from suppliers, but we want to make it like a thing that's our core competency, that it's a skill set that we can do just ourselves. And I think the most prominent example is Carriot, like the subsidiary of Volkswagen, where they like try to build like the second biggest software company in Europe after SAP. Like, that was the big vision back then, like 5 or 6 years ago, and it didn't work so well. And mainly it didn't work well because like of the old structures and like the old transformation. It was less a technical challenge, but more like a cultural and organizational challenge why it didn't work. And we can see this at several maybe at all German automakers. They now switch their strategy towards a partnering strategy. Like, they now are saying, we tried to build up like the new competencies ourselves, and it didn't work in time. We weren't able to transform ourselves fast enough to catch up with the growing competition, and now they partnering with other companies. And if we stay with the example of Volkswagen, we saw that they invested heavily in Rivian in the US, which is like kind of a newcomer in like an EV startup that is like building software-defined vehicles on this like greenfield approach, like we talked before. And Volkswagen is hoping like to get their technology into their portfolio and lineup and vehicles, at least in the West. And they're doing the same in China with a company called Xiaopeng, which is like kind of the same, but currently we have like this special situation in the automotive industry that car makers that are active like in the Western markets and in China have to have like two separate technology stacks, because like there's like so much borders and restrictions between the US and China that you can't use like the same technology in the US that you use in China. So that's like the strategy of Volkswagen: have a technology partner in China and have a technology partner in the US. And you can observe this also with BMW and Mercedes, which are partnering, especially in China, with several technology players to catch up with competition. For example, in autonomous driving technologies and in software and in artificial intelligence, stuff like this.
But isn't that very risky? Because at one point you have like a software-defined vehicle. You go like, okay, the software is our core thing, and then we'll build a car around it. And then you go like, okay, but we buy the software. So we just become a manufacturing company in the end, right? Like a fulfillment partner for the software company in the end. I feel that's a quite risky play to outsource. I'm making air quotes for that. Outsource the core part of your vehicle.
Definitely, if you just like would contract a supplier with, hey, build me a software first platform for my next vehicles, and I don't have any IP as the manufacturer, then it's a problem. If you have IP, I think then it's a strategy that can work, especially if you made the experience before that you can't do it yourself in time. There's just like too many problems, and if you do it yourself, you will be too slow. And also, if we just like stay with the example of Volkswagen, they're not just like buying or not just contracting a supplier, they're really investing and buying shares of Rivian, for example, and they also bought shares of Xiaopeng, so they own like stakes of the company, which they are partnering with. And I think like that's like the hybrid way or the middle way of doing so. And I think it's it's a strategy that's worth trying out. It's a fair try.
And I think it already worked out back then when we used China as our elongated workbench in order to do the technology transfer and cut costs. So we transferred tech in to China, but got back like way cheaper manufacturing costs. And now that technology is widely available in China, and they are able to build really well-made cars. And now I feel that their competency is also creating a software-defined vehicle platforms. And now we do the same thing, just back and like transfer back that technology back to Europe. So we do just like the reverse technology transfer that we did, like, I don't know how many years ago, like 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's kind of the ironic reality. Like we teached China how to build cars back then, and now now we want them to teach us how to build software-defined cars and how to build
exactly.
like cars for the new world. Like that's kind of the ironic reality we are living in right now.
And at the same time, there's like this big urge of cutting costs in car manufacturers. But we also see that in suppliers, and we see that in new plants that get built or get planned, that those those plants get canceled, those factories are not getting built. So everything is like cooling down with the already cooling down economy as well.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering what trends in the style of operating an automotive company do you see that are really pushing into that transformation, that help those companies to transform while at the same time sort of cutting those costs drastically?
I think that's like several areas. Maybe we go there through them like one by one.
Mhm.
Like, why do you have to cut costs? Because you sell less vehicles. Like, if we like all in all, the cake has the same size like it had like 10 years ago. Like, actually, like every year more and more cars get sold if you look from a meta perspective on it. So it's more a problem of more players competing for the same cake, and that means that the established players had like they in the past they had their share of the cake, and this share is just getting smaller because like there are more competitors competing on the same cake, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, sure. But overall, like the jobs get transferred, right? They get the jobs get transferred to those companies who are owning a bigger part of the cake now.
Definitely. Like if you like have an organization that has been optimized and set up for a certain amount of cars that you sell per year, and now you're selling significantly less cars, then of course you also need less people. I think that's a reality, and what we also of course see, we see this trend of we call it a local for local trend, which means that like the development and production of the products is moving to the markets where the products actually get sold. We see this especially in China, but we see it also in the US. In the US, it's more driven by all this
America First approach.
America First approach. Yeah, I just thought how to say it like in a politically right way. In the, we see like driven. They drive production moving from Europe to America, and in China it's more like driven by the consumer side, because we learned the hard way in the past years that our previous success model, that we built like a really good product or we develop a really good product in Germany, for example, in Wolfsburg or Munich, and then sell it like very successfully to the whole world, just doesn't work anymore, because we have like this trend of customer preferences shifting apart in the certain areas of the world. So Chinese customers want something completely different from a car than a German customer, and that's why a car that we perfectly develop within Germany might not get sold in China so well, because customers just prefer other products and have a broader selection now, and more competitors are there that are serving those customer preferences in China pretty well. And this trend kind of like drives that we have to move development of products to the market. So we have to develop our products within China to be like near at the end customer, and develop products that are appealing to those customers. If you understand.
Interesting.
What I mean.
I think I got that.
Yeah.
Although the production line would be somewhere where the cost of production is fairly low. So you would have the product development, like the vehicle development, service development, software development inside that local market that you want to serve. And then you have the production side wherever you have that production side.
Definitely. But in like if you zoom out, of course, it's more expensive for the car makers that are operating globally, because it just means like you have to have development within Europe, you have to have development and production in the US, and you have to have development and production in China and Asia. So you have like this parallel strings or streams, let's say it like this, which is of course more expensive than than saying, okay, we have just like one stream of development and that's based in Germany, and then we sell successfully to the whole world like we did it in the past, and that's just not working anymore.
Yeah. You cut down the economy of scales on your company because you have like different almost independent entities. I'm wondering, like, do you see that there's like even in Germany a local market for like local players? Would you say that's also a trend that you see in Germany, that people buy cars that get made in Germany?
I think there is, but I think it's not significant. First, the German car market is tiny compared to the global car market. Like we saw last year, we sold maybe 3 million cars, new cars in Germany, and in China there were sold more than 30 million. So it's like in the US it was around maybe 16 million. So you see, like, China is the big player here, and that's also why all German car makers rely very heavily on China as a market. And that's why it is so important to develop products that work, especially in China. Germany is not so significant from this point of view.
But what trends do you see in the German market?
I think the German customer is especially focused on making a good deal. Like if you have like this Autonormal Kunde, this like really regular customer, I think we as Germans, we all know people who have been looking for cars. I think the most important factor when buying a car is a good having a good price for good quality. And I don't think we have like. I think your question is like going into the direction if we have like customers who make this patriotic buying decisions and just buying cars from German manufacturers. I don't think this is such a significant factor that we can really rely on this, because if you get like the better deal from Asian manufacturer, let's say from a Korean manufacturer or a Japanese or a Chinese brand, and you get like the same features and the same quality for 10,000 euro less than at Volkswagen, then I think customers won't be so patriotic. They will just want to make the good deal in the end of the day.
And do you see efforts in the automakers where they are trying to separate those regional entities and to really like make, let's say, maybe independent Chinese entity or an independent US entity? Because I feel at the moment right now, things are very entwined in each other. So it's not like really independent entities. They are still they're still using quite similar or same platforms. But I feel like, go ahead.
I think it depends. If you look at Volkswagen, they like have more and more having like a complete separate lineup and complete separate products and platforms in China compared to the rest of the world.
What platform are they using in China? Do you know that?
They develop a platform with Xiaopeng. Like the news from last week was like before this platform was only meant to be used for EVs in China, and now they extended the collaboration with Xiaopeng, and they will also use it for hybrids, also plug-in hybrids and combustion cars. So their full Volkswagen lineup will be a separate China platform developed together with Xiaopeng. And if you for example look at Audi, which is like also part of the Volkswagen group, they have even launched a sub-brand for China, which is also called Audi. It's very confusing.
But it's written out, right? It doesn't have the rings anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't have the rings, and it's like in capitals. It's AUDI, and it's just actually it's a vehicle from SAIC. And they just like
they just rebranded it, repackaged it,
rebranded it. So the platform is actually from SAIC.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think where the automotive industry goes into the, let's say, if we go ahead, like in between 5 or 10 years from now, what do you think? Where do we stand in terms of that transformation that you told us about at the beginning of the show?
I think all those technological shifts will accelerate. And
do you think one of them will be done? Like,
I think the big challenge we are experienced that the progress of these technological shifts differ across world regions. So if you look at China, then the technological shift is just like moving way faster than in the US, for example. If we just take like the shift from combustion engines to EVs, then we can see that we have like 3 speeds. If we look at China, at Europe, and at the US. In China, it's going fastest. Europe is kind of like in the middle, and the US is the slowest. And we have like this shift, this different speeds of transformation within all regions, which makes it double challenging and double difficult for car manufacturers who operate in all those regions, because you have like to manage all those shifts, and you have like to develop products that are appealing within each region. So for the US, if you are Volkswagen, for the US, you have to develop for years to come really good combustion engine cars. In China, you won't be successful in 5 years if you don't have like competitive EVs, because more than 50% of new cars sold in China are already EVs, and like the share is just growing from month to month and from year to year. So if you don't have like a competitive lineup with EVs, then you can just like leave China. You won't have like a market there anymore. But in the US, it's completely different. And in Europe, like I said, it's like right in the middle. You have to develop really good combustion cars for those customers who still rely on combustion engines. And that will also be like a time frame that will last years. But you also have to develop more and more also competitive EVs, because more and more customers getting converted to the EV space and looking for competitive electric vehicles, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, it's getting super diverse, and I really wonder how car companies are keeping up with that, because they all seem to be very well shaped in terms of their processes, very efficient organizations. They have a spreadsheet and a template for everything, right? And everything is just, this is the way they go.
Yeah.
And now they have to sort of be more flexible, more agile, if you want to use that word, more diverse in their solutions and in their approaches they're taking. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see where those companies go within the next 10 years.
Me too.
Philipp, thank you so much for jumping on an episode with me. Also, thanks for Stefan and Michael, who recommended that I should reach out to you. I do every second week. I post a link to a type form where people can recommend me interesting people to invite them on the show.
Oh, I didn't know that. So
yeah. So
also thanks from my side to Stefan and Michael, right? You said?
Yeah. Those guys. I think they're both working at automotive companies. I have to stalk them back on LinkedIn somehow. All right. It was good talking to you. And I will provide all the show notes, all the links in the show notes below, so people can reach out if they want to learn more. I can highly recommend your newsletter. It's really, really cool. Like, if you don't like newsletters, then follow Philipp on LinkedIn. You get all the information there as well. And I promise, if you read those posts, you will end up subscribed to that newsletter anyway. Okay. Thanks for coming onto the show, and talk to you very, very soon.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Stellar Work Podcast. Big shout out to Philipp Raasch for sharing his insights on the seismic shifts and the big questions transforming the automotive industry right now. If you found this episode helpful, please follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast app and consider leaving a review. It helps us reach more curious like-mindeds. You'll find all the links and key takeaways in the show notes below. Got a guest recommendation or a burning question? Use the link to suggest future topics or connect with us on LinkedIn. Catch us again in 2 weeks for another deep dive into the world of work, technology, and transformation. Until then, keep learning, and stay stellar.